What's up, everyone? Kaiji no Kami here with...
Cruellica Kain. You should obviously, hopefully know me by now.
And we're here to do a spoiler talk on the new Halloween, because we went to see it again last night. So What did you think about it this time around?
I still loved it. It was still as good as it was the first time we watched it. Definitely caught a bunch of things that I didn't see the first time, which is nice because that's always the sad thing about movies is if you watch it once, like Bad Times at the El Royale, watch that once, still remember everything, don't know if I really will catch anything new when I view it again. Not that it's a bad thing because it's an awesome movie.
I'm sure we will, though.
But with this movie, I kind of feel like there were so many nods to the multitude of movies that came prior to this Halloween, plus just for the horror genre itself. It was a nice little resurgence of what made the original Halloween so groundbreaking in '78 that 40 years later it could still capture that same.
It feels weird not having anyone else around us for this. Usually we have everyone here. If you've seen the Sentai and Kamen Rider stuff. I liked it just as much as the first time. I still think there are a couple minor flaws with it.
Which I kind of disagree on some of those.
We'll get into those momentarily. I think it's the best Michael Myers sequel and the third best Halloween movie overall because Halloween 3 is still better than this one. The soundtrack was really, really good. Especially,
Well, you had John Carpenter and his son, I think his name is Cody?
Yes.
So it was nice to see that, to kind of have that revival of John Carpenter doing the synth, keyboard, orchestra type music that he did back in the 80s with Halloween, Thing.
Piano.
Well, it was a synthesizer.
No, in the original Halloween, it was only the piano.
Oh, it was?
Yeah.
Oh.
He did the synthesizer after when he started working with Alan Holworth, when they really started doing the whole synth stuff for Escape from New York and Halloween 2, 3.
Well, I know he loves his synthesizers, which I have to admit, I do enjoy the synthesizer. Well, it's overused in modern music this day and age, but it was really well done.
It's not. It's not overused. It's not used enough.
Right. So, truthfully, I still love this movie. For me, what was so amazing about it is, and I know we'll talk more about this later, it was one of those few movies that I think in the modern generation, so like the last nearly 10, 20 years, that actually truthfully had a good way of doing girl power, which I'm not necessarily a fan of because it's always patronizing and a lot of times when it's done. But there was just something well done about it to have Jamie Lee Curtis, Judy Greer, and unfortunately I can't remember the actress's name who played Allison, but to see 3 generations all working together.
That's because it said introducing her in the credits.
Well, that's the same thing that they did with Jamie Lee Curtis.
So, being that we're not going to know who she is unless she becomes relevant in a few years.
Which I hope so, because she did a very good job. So I guess let's start with the beginning of the movie. Well, the beginning of it entirely.
Well, if you don't know by now, this is a direct sequel to the first one. There is no second movie and all that other stuff. It's just first one. There is no brother-sister angle to this movie. In fact, they even make a joke about that because when the kid says, "Oh, wasn't that your grandma's brother?" and then she's like, "No, people just made that up to make themselves feel better."
Which, it's so true. So where I was thinking of going with the beginning is actually, the first movie has the pumpkin for the opening intro before it goes into Michael. And for this one, we actually have a destroyed pumpkin that's being vitalized or resurrected,
being
so to speak.
inflated. And
so it was very cool because the credits for the movie were done exactly as they were done, almost even with the font style, the layout.
I think it's the same font.
Yeah, it was practically
same colors.
Everything. So I thought that was a nice nod to the fact of what Deborah Hill and John Carpenter did back in '78. So then we start off with
the podcasters.
The podcasters, which current day and era, that's really how even all of you get your news half the time, is through the internet. If not from listening to him and his news reports, which I know we're going to do more about, you have so many other people that are non-news networks doing actual news reports. So I thought it was very interesting to kind of give that nod. And
it also gave them a reason for Michael to be able to get his mask back.
Exactly. I did make the joke to Kaiju that it kind of, if you have to give it a movie reference nod to any of the previous films, I would say closest to Resurrection because of the reality show. As he makes the comment, there was no drop kicking Michael Myers, which I still admit is the best part of that when Busta Rhymes does it. But, so it was interesting to have the podcasters come in. You meet the new Loomis, Dr. Severian?
Sarvin?
It's an Eastern European name. I will...
And I like when even Laurie says when she first meets him, like, oh, you're the new Loomis.
Exactly. But they didn't try to push it. Because that was the one thing I feared, is having someone replace Donald Pleasance, which unfortunately has to happen. You have to have a new doctor come into play. But they made him his own. So you have that, and you get the most, I think, the most powerful scene of the entire, one of the most powerful scenes of the entire movie, when you have this, I think it's a human rights violation, even if it's probably the nicest way of doing it, where you have this, like, huge out area where you have all the different
inmates.
They're not inmates because it's not technically a jail, the asylum, chained up. And while I thought it was creepy, it made sense because all of these individuals probably are there for some reason or another. And then you have...
Well, I like how they started going crazy when Michael's just standing there. The guy's like going nuts, like, talk to me!
Well, and then he has the mask in his hand, which, that was so cool. And it was nice to see the mask again, the real mask.
Well, a recreation of the original.
Well, you had talked about that with Shatner.
Yeah, I guess they actually had a copy, like, took William Shatner's face today and based the new mask off that, so it works.
Yeah, so it still looks like the old mask, but...
rotted and made to look like William Shatner today. Police are going to come knocking on his door. Where were you on October 31st? Anywhere near Haddonfield?
If Haddonfield even exists in the real world.
But,
at least it's not in Utah this
time. It does.
Oh, it does?
I think the book that we got at the draft house said that Deborah Hill's hometown was Haddonfield, New Jersey.
Oh, I think it was Indiana for this movie, but who knows. So if it exists and you know
Illinois.
Wherever, let us know if it really does exist, because I would actually go out there, because we tried to see all the different sets for the Halloweens that were in Utah. But I digress. So we see that entire scene play out. They leave, they go see Laurie, and there have been some complaints from what I've heard from other reviewers or other critics or other people who've seen the movie that they don't believe Laurie's way, how she acts, what she's done with her life for the last 40 years. And what did you think first?
I thought it worked. It made sense. And because, again, like back in the 70s, they wouldn't have cared if they would have told her, oh, you're going to school the next day. Who cares?
Well, and as a person who has severe depression, probably PTSD, even though I haven't been diagnosed for it. If you come from a violent situation, which hers had culminated in one night, I can only imagine what it does to the psyche. You have to be scared to death, especially unlike the other films where there's so much variety of what may have happened to Michael. You know the man who tried to kill you and killed your friends is still alive. And that, I think, could terrorize anyone. The man who broke into my home as a kid was still alive, but nobody died. I think if somebody had died in my particular situation, I might have gone a little bit over the deep end as well. But it was interesting to see how far she went. But it truthfully is, nobody's probably going to listen. Especially, even at this day and age, nobody, excuse my frankness for it, but nobody fucking listens. And that's always the hard part. Sorry, my one F-bomb for the night, because it's truth.
Only one?
Well,
Yeah, we'll
I'll
see.
try to keep it. But, so, I thought that was important.
Well, I like when they go through the interview and she doesn't really give them any information. She's like, okay, time's up, I want my money.
But I think she gave them, actually, I personally think if they actually, spoilers for future in the movie, they die, but if they actually completed the podcast, if they were as investigative as they said they were and how they did some powerful things, I kind of feel, and they may have felt the same way at that particular moment, she gave them a lot. She gave them a look into her current attitude by being so aggressive, by being so petulant in how she reacted to them. And then you go, and I know it was, I think in between this, her granddaughter and the two friends walking, they made a very, very valid points.
Oh yeah, I like
during
that.
their conversation, when they talk about the fact that he only technically killed 5 people in the original movie, which is true. You only had the driver they stole the clothes from.
Mm-hmm.
You had Linda, you had Annie, you had, what was the boyfriend's name?
Was Bob?
Bob, yes. Because Paul was the one.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
So you had those 4, and I know there was another, his sister. So 5
Yeah.
people in a span of 15 years. So they make the comment, which is so true but so depressing at the same time. In this day and age, in 2018, 5 people is not that many.
Not just that, but with a knife.
With a knife. And it's true. And it's depressing that it's true. In 1979, yes, you had a shit ton of serial killers. Not the F-bomb. Doesn't count. And I will keep my swearing to a minimum, I promise.
Whatever.
But you had a lot of killers, but they were sadly not to the degree of what we have today. And especially when we're filming this today, there have already been sadly 5 events: Philadelphia, Tallahassee, Indiana. Was it Georgia for the guy who killed the 2
I don't know.
African Americans?
That was last week.
Last week, but still, there's been ridiculous amount, and we're talking about a horror movie that the kill count is not to the degree of real
Speaking
life.
of the kills, even this one, they kept, even though there were more kills, I think they still kept it
It was
body
still
count.
about, I'd say it was under 15 at most.
I don't even think, it might have not even been.
But,
Because obviously, the doctor killed the one cop.
well, yeah. So, going back to the kills, the first kill you have on screen that you see is of
The little boy.
the little boy, which makes me so sad because all I want to do is go to dance class. And he's holding a shotgun while talking about it.
That
But,
was a rifle.
okay, I'm sorry, I'm not up on my gun logic this day and age. How he died reminded me of how Annie died in the car in the first movie. At least he didn't get out of the car thinking he didn't have the keys and then get back into the car to turn it on.
And not even notice that the door was unlocked at that point.
Yeah. But this poor kid was traumatized, and it was so sad to actually have the kid die. But unfortunately, you really had no choice.
And then you find out, then you see later on his dad's body when the cops come.
His dad's body. So on screen, he's the first.
The kid, yeah.
And then the second one is reminiscent to Halloween 2.
2. The shop people.
Oh yes, those two shop owners. Those are reminiscent of 4.
Because that's where he went to that gas station and
because it blew up when
he drove past Loomis.
Yeah. So the next are the shopkeepers, which is 4, how they die. How they the attack in the bathroom was like H2O, except
at the rest stop.
The rest stop, except for the fact that thankfully the mother and her little girl didn't die.
But
how
H2O.
she in H2O, but how she acted opening up each of the stalls, looking at the mirror, how the layout of the entire bathroom was for the gas station was exactly like the rest stop in H2O. And I think I even saw a truck somewhere that looked like the truck that...
And then we did see that one guy, though, in the background also being killed by Michael. When the one podcaster dude is standing in his car, you see Michael in the far background behind a fence beating someone up with what looked like a pipe.
Oh, I missed that one. Wow. I still miss stuff, and I've seen the movie twice.
So yeah, it might have been around 15. But yeah, I like the way they kept the kills. Like, some people complain that they didn't make the kills all out there. Because, some people are like, oh, slasher movies, the kills are supposed to be wacky and weird and cartoony. And I like how they kept them more realistic in this. They didn't always show you the kill, but they made you, but you knew how it was going down.
See, the Nightmare on Elm Street movies are my favorite franchise. And yes, Freddy Krueger is wacky with how he does the kills. He's creative, he's funny.
But he's also in a dream world.
Exactly. And that's not how slasher movies were done originally. And that's the one thing that I think people forget is the slashers we might have current day, which are very, very slim pickings, and a lot of the horror movies that we have in this modern era, and I love them still, but they're so over the top. They're so gore-tastic. And that's not what this movie...
Gore is boring.
If it's done right, it's great. But it should not be the prerequisite for a good slasher. The next kill, then, after he gets to Haddonfield, is getting into the house.
Yeah, when he grabs the hammer, kills the mother, takes the butcher knife.
Well, because that's exactly like in Halloween 2, how it starts, because he goes in the house, kills the housewife, who is making a sandwich for her husband.
No, he doesn't kill them. Remember, he grabbed the knife and she walks to the kitchen, sees the blood.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Because he went in...
Oh, yeah, he killed the other babysitter.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind.
But I like the way that whole sequence was filmed, when it's like following him from behind, going through the house.
And then you hear a baby, a newborn, like a little baby crying. And after you see him already kill the little boy, all you're thinking is like, no, God, no. Don't kill the baby. Don't kill the baby. And then he walks past and leaves the baby alone. And you're still kind of like, well, even though he didn't kill the baby, there's no adults in the fucking house. But it's...
So, and then when he walks outside and you see like that couple leaving for their party.
Oh, the nurse and the doctor. And how... Well, and then you have the two little boys run up to him, and the little boy, like...
Well, that was how they first... That was before. Because the little boys ran into him, said sorry,
that was he was walking to
and then that's when he walked to the place, because that's how they basically introduced him. Kind of like the little boy in the original Halloween, after he got done torturing Tommy, when he runs off the school lot and runs right into Michael.
Very true. And another thing that I forgot to mention when they're at the gas station, the coolest scene for Michael Myers for me in this movie of him as a character is after he pulls the mask out of the trunk and he's putting it on, and then he closes the trunk and stands up, and you see him in full regalia, and I'm like, this is Michael Myers.
And they did a really nice job on that mask.
They did. They really, really did. So, along with the kills, we still have Laurie, and a couple of cool things for Laurie is, one, her granddaughter Allison is in class sitting in the exact same spot her grandmother sat in the classroom listening to the exact same lesson with the exact same monotone instruction. But the cool thing about that is it was done by the woman who played Linda in the original Halloween. You don't see her, but her voice, she's actually giving the lesson like the original teacher did in 78.
And then she looks out the window and sees
her grandmother standing exactly in the same stance as Michael was standing 40 years earlier, and then a truck drives by and she's gone.
No, I thought...
Oh, she looks away and then looks back. That's what it is.
No, she looks away, but then it cuts to when they're talking on the field.
I thought she
No,
disappeared.
for some reason I thought that happened too until we rewatched it yesterday.
Damn it, I still thought she disappeared.
I thought the same thing.
But it was so cool to see her in that stance. The only thing that would have made it better is having like a station wagon, like an old school station wagon right next to it. But going back to Michael, after you have that...
The rampage. Well, the rampage, and then is when he goes after... He ends up killing the friend. Or not the friend, the babysitter. Which is one of the best scenes of the movie.
Well, it's such a creative scene because it's the two friends of Allison that you meet in the beginning of the movie. They're talking about the brother and sister thing, talking about the kill count thing. And so...
Well, I like when the kid's like, I'm going to tell my mom. She's like, okay, well, tell her about your browser history so I can get you in trouble too. He's like, no, you won't.
But... I almost feel like the girl and the little boy that she was babysitting, they had to have hung out at some point to get the chemistry that they did.
Oh yeah,
because it felt so
great
fluid.
Because they felt like they knew each other.
Exactly. They felt like, yeah, she has been his babysitter.
But then I like after when Michael might be in there, and he's like, send Dave first!
Yeah, it's like, send the boyfriend first. He can die. I like you. But she tries to be that responsible adult. But yes, she invites her boyfriend over. But she still, the way she always did it, she never seemed like she was taking away from her own responsibility as a babysitter. Not like Annie did by walking across the street in a button-down shirt and a sweater to take a kid to somebody else's house. I'm like, that's the most powerful babysitter ever. But so...
And then when she's hitting that's the one thing I will say, that it sucks that they spoiled that scene in the trailer.
I don't really remember the
but
trailer,
I guess
in all honesty.
Well, lucky you.
But even though it was still well done, because not every kill does Michael Myers do is on screen. Because he kills her, but the boyfriend, when you see his body later, not much later, but a little bit later, he's hung up against the wall like Bob was.
With the gravity-defying
kill straight through the neck, because he was face forward rather than, or face forward
into the wall.
And I almost wanted to see him, because he did it a couple times where he tilts his head in wonderment of what he does.
Well, I like also, though, when he is killing the one girl, Vicky, I think her name was, when the kid first jumps out of the bed, like, ah! But then he goes back up the stairs as if he's going to try to help her. He's like, nope.
Well, self-preservation, I was like, okay, he did a little bit better than what Tommy Doyle did, so I appreciated it. But it was amazing, just because he came back kind of to his roots of being that babysitter killer. And then the next kill we really see...
when he killed the friend who took Allison to the shortcut after we had that pointless scene with her boyfriend.
sadly, I was the high school student that was like the friend. Wasn't drunk, but I was typically high. So that type of shortcut of what he was doing, I remember those days that myself and my friends, and don't do drugs. Don't ever, ever, ever do drugs. We thought those shortcuts were the most intelligent options in the world. And then when you finish them, I think looking back as an adult, I'm like, I was really stupid. But I do love the fact of when, so they get into a little bit of an argument, Allison and her friend. He falls on his ass because he's drunk, and the motion sensor lights go off, and he freaks out. Hey, who goes there? I'm like, and even I thought the same thing as she said it. Motion sensors, dumbass. I'm like, oh my god.
Well, I also, I like how he called out, oh, sorry, Mr. Elrod, which was the name of the old people from the second movie that was making the sandwich.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, so, see? He knows so many more Easter eggs than I do. Because, it's amazing.
But I like the way they did that motion sensor scene, how Michael would just stand there still until the light went out, light comes back on, he's in another spot.
I know, I'm like, did he just run? Because he doesn't run any other time. But,
maybe he's a weeping angel now.
Oh, God.
Don't
As long
blink.
as it's not like the New York Weeping Angels. But, for you Doctor Who nerds out there. I did like the fact that you had the Halloween 3 masks.
Yes, that was cool, seeing the witch, the pumpkin, and the skeleton.
So that was a nice additional nod to the Halloween franchise. So in thinking about the Doctor, so we're going to fast forward a little bit because the next
Well, yeah, we don't need to recap the entire
important
movie.
kill is actually, because the one officer's name is, oh, I don't know his last name. His name is Frank. And Lori
The
knows
guy from
him.
Armageddon. That's all you need to know. The guy from Armageddon.
I've never even thought that, but sure.
Okay, the guy from the Nicolas Cage movie with Angelina Jolie.
Gone. Oh, Gone in 60 Seconds. That's really him?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I have to watch that movie again. Okay, nevertheless, so Frank and Lori know each other because Frank's backstory as an officer is he was there, he was the one who prevented Loomis from killing him entirely. So when he rams into Michael, because Allison, the granddaughter's in the backseat because they find her, the doctor's in the front seat with him, he comes to the conclusion, which is smart, thank you,
Well, I think also because he feels responsible because
of the fact that he didn't allow somebody to actually do away with this monster. So the doctor kills him. I think because he almost starts becoming a monster himself, which once again, this movie is a perfect allegory for mental illness. So you have him who, around so many insane people, starts taking on some of those qualities. I actually thought of something. You want to know what he could be a potential reference for because it makes sense? Halloween 6 with the other doctor.
Oh, I already thought of that. You're talking about Wynn.
Yeah, Dr. Wynn, because Dr. Wynn started taking on those qualities as well. It's a Bruce reference.
I know. I mean, I see why the movie did what they did, what they were going for. It's just that twist just does not work.
I didn't hate the twist. I understand where people could.
It just, yeah, it's supposed to seem out of nowhere, but it also felt, I mean, he managed to kill a cop with a broken arm, and I think the worst part for me, though, is he randomly puts on Michael's mask for no reason whatsoever. Like, what was the whole point of that?
I think because he kind of felt like he, at that point, understood.
Oh, it could be symbolic for that, but it doesn't work from a narrative perspective.
I can understand that. I didn't hate it. And I know there's so many people out there who hated that
Oh,
twist.
and then we have the two cops.
Okay, the two cops reminded me of 5.
But done right.
But done right, because they were funny, and they had such chemistry once again. everybody who acted with each other had great chemistry. It made you think that they actually said, you know what? Let's have each person who has to act in the scene like they know each other very well, get to know each other.
Everyone was on top of their game.
Because they made...
You can tell they all enjoyed working on this movie.
Which is how it was when you saw the original, too. You felt like the three girls, Lori, Linda, and Annie, all were friends. And which was great. So you had those two cops who were doing the right thing, not stupid, and they were very...
And they didn't have any music.
Oh, thank God.
But yeah, they were funny. The other thing, though, when you think about it, Michael getting to Lori's place was... Lori and Michael meeting for the final act was all just pure coincidence.
Oh yeah, it was not...
There was no, they actually met because they met. No, it was just... they just happened to take Michael to the place.
It's not like 2, 4, 5, and 6, or H2O or Resurrection, where he almost has this homing beacon for Lori. Because that's how I always thought of it for Lori, for
it's just like Michael
Jamie. It's like he had this homing beacon.
It's just like with Jason Voorhees, where he just has this sex.
Oh my God, they're having sex! I need to kill them.
My sex sense is tingling.
That sounds terrible. I don't know why he didn't kill more people in New York then, but then again, he wasn't in New York. Okay, segueing, wrong slasher franchise, but
I did like when he kills Sarvin.
Severian I go, because it was a boot to the head. If you've never seen that skit online, look for Phoenix Wright's boot to the head.
I'm going to have to use that in my review of it.
I love boot to head.
Boot to head?
Yes, boot to head. So, moving forward a little bit further, they get to the house.
Michael kills 2 cops.
Michael kills 2 cops.
The dad.
He somehow finds a way to drive to the car to the house, put the cop and a lovely little jack-o'-lantern in the front seat, get out of the car so he can get behind the husband, Ray, with the chain.
Well, no, there was a shotgun sticking up, so I think he used that for the gas.
So the jack-o'-lantern, I still want to know
how he ripped some dude's skin off and put Halloween lights in it.
It was brilliantly done. I actually want to have one for my house for Halloween decoration, but I thought it was still the skull, and he somehow got the brain out, and he's like, no, he took the skin off. I'm like, still, how did he do it?
Well,
Michael is very creative.
That, or he just shot the dude in the head with the shotgun.
One way or another, he was great in arts and crafts. Let's just put it that way. He would have been. And
then we have that scene. The whole final battle was so intense.
So the final arc, it's hard. I can spoil it, but it still wouldn't do the scenes justice.
This is called a spoiler.
I know that, but there's no way, even us talking about it, it would take hours to explain that final act
It's so much better than H2O's final.
No, it
sequence.
Much is, even though LL Cool J was awesome in it. But still, okay, sorry, I love H2O still, but so the few things I like, once again, allegory for mental illness. You see Judy Greer, who grew up to be a psychiatrist, which you find out a little bit more in the beginning of the movie.
With her Christmas sweater.
Which, defiance of a holiday that she probably personally hates. I don't blame her.
Well, that was another nod to Halloween 6, when the cops go, what are we going to do, cancel Halloween?
So, you have, Lori and Karen, that's Judy Greer's character, when Karen was a child, they worked on building so many different traps, so many different things for their house to outfit it so that they'd be prepared if Michael somehow escaped, which, that's just begging for it. And you learn that there's so much to it. And she actually, with her own issues with mental illness, probably from PTSD from her mother, learned to become almost like her own type of a weapon. It was great to see two things, and they worked back to back. You have Michael trying to get into the basement where Karen and Allison are located. Karen grabs the gun, and when Michael breaks in, she starts freaking out in a panic until Michael walks around the corner, assuming that she's scared to death, and she's like, gotcha, and she pulls the trigger and shoots him. Then you have simultaneously, because he is falling backwards because he was shot in the side of his head, you have Lori coming out of the shadows like Michael does in the first movie to Bob, and she just...
No, not to Bob. When she, she discovered her friends.
On the second floor, yes. How he slowly comes out of the shadows behind her. She does the same thing to him, and this brings a Bowie knife and starts stabbing him. And it was such a perfect, culmination of events. Because not only did you have that scene, you had the closet scene where he did the fake out, like what you had in the original movie. You had...
when she falls off the balcony.
You had the falling off the balcony.
And then he turns when he hears Alice in the house, turns back and she's gone.
Exactly. This movie wasn't just stealing those scenes. It was
taking good ideas from the other movies and putting them all into its own thing.
And making it work. And giving so much respect to the core material. And at first when I saw the credits and I heard Kaijino talking about this, saying that there were 3 writers for the script, I was a little worried. Because usually when you have more cooks in the kitchen...
Especially being Danny McBride.
What else did he do?
Well, he's a comedian. Both of them they're comedian writers and directors.
But that doesn't necessarily...
But Danny McBride was in Alien Covenant. He was the husband who was going to pretty much crash the ship into the planet to save his wife when she was being attacked.
But that's like saying who wrote Covenant?
Ridley Scott.
Oh, sorry, wrong movie. Okay. But I can't blame the actor for the script. And there are great comedic writers that can write an excellent horror movie. That's been proven over the years. But I was so scared because too many cooks in the kitchen does not necessarily mean you're going to get a good outcome. So I was a little worried about that. But they all apparently worked cohesively. And from what you had talked about, they actually asked John Carpenter and Jamie Lee Curtis to review the scripts before filming even took place. Which I thought was a smart idea because it's like, this made both of their careers. Jamie Lee Curtis, yes, she had a name behind her because of who her parents were. If you don't know who their parents are, watch Psycho for Janet Leigh, watch
Sweet Smell of Success.
Or Some Like It Hot for Tony Curtis. Both are incredible actors in their own rights. And so she had at least that name, but that didn't mean anything on if she could even act. And the only thing John Carpenter had was Dark Star, which...
Well, and Assault on Precinct 13.
Was that before that? Really?
Yeah.
I thought it came just after.
No, Dark Star, and then Assault on Precinct 13, and then came Halloween.
And Assault on Precinct 13, it's good, but it's very crude in how it's presented. So this made both of their careers, because I doubt Assault on Precinct 13 was a career-breaking. But, so that helped. And the final act was brilliant. And...
the only negatives I really have for the movie is the boyfriend was pointless.
Yes, we didn't talk about the boyfriend because there really isn't any value to it. It was so stupid.
His entire scenes are utterly pointless. There was another way they could have had the whole aspect with Allison getting chased by Michael.
I do wish they did a little bit more of the husband, because I know the actor, I don't know his name,
I can't think of it.
but he's such a funny actor, because he is a comedian, once again, so is Judy Greer, and actually so is Jamie Lee Curtis, technically. But it would have been interesting to see a little bit more of that dichotomy, because I think...
I need to check the battery life. We've got 7 minutes.
Okay, because... Wow, you now made me lose my thought. Well...
He's a comedian actor.
Well, because his death was powerful, like it made an impact, but I don't think it made as strong of an impact as it could have. The Doctor, I don't technically agree that I thought it was a bad choice to have the twist, but I can understand where people were coming from on having it be a bad
Those
choice.
are pretty much my only 2 complaints. The Doctor being Dr. Evil, and the boyfriend, and that whole Halloween party scene being pointless.
The only thing I will say is if you like the current horror movie vein of torture porn, which...
You're not going to get that.
If you don't know what torture porn is, it's the Zombies remake of Halloween 1 or 2, House of a Thousand Corpses, Saw, Hostel, anything along those lines. If that's what you're looking for, if you're looking for huge amounts of gore...
Or a human Michael.
Or...
A humanized Michael.
Yes, if you're looking for a method to his madness, you're not going to find this here. It's a 6-year-old boy in a 61-year-old man's body. That's... If you don't understand that, then this is really not going to be your film. It's an allegory for mental illness starting from a child who did not know how to express himself. I don't really know a backstory, but that's the only thing I can think of, to like what the man became and how he destroyed other lives along the way. What would you say for people who, to give them an idea of what they may or may not want?
Well, if you just want jump scares and blood, gore, creative, out-of-this-world kills, you're not going to get that.
No, is it creative in its own right?
This is back to basics. This is what Halloween was originally and the way it should have been.
Halloween is the grandfather, actually no, Halloween is the father.
Because Psycho's the grandfather.
Well, Psycho is the grandfather, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is the crazy uncle, and Halloween is the father of slashers.
And Black Christmas is the stepbrother nobody wants to remember.
Yeah, which is so sad because it's a great movie. If you didn't have those 4 films, there are other horror movies, yes, but those 4 films created the slasher genre. What those 3 other films did, Carpenter, everybody else put it into Halloween. That's why Halloween is the father of everything slasher. And that's why this is a great grandchild.
So if you haven't seen it, which means we just spoiled the whole movie for you.
If you haven't seen it, still watch it. Because there's so much more.
Post your comments on what you thought it was. If you didn't do so in my regular quickie review, post them in this one. Until next time.
And also, tell us what your favorite slasher movie is of all time.
Bye.